Before we get started with the main program, I just want to take a couple of minutes first to remind you that the monthly Lunch and Learn programs are sponsored by the wonderful friends of the Rogers Public Library, who I always tell, I have friends in libraries all across this country, and nobody has a friends group as incredible as ours. And if you want to join this group of amazing people and all the things they do for this library, they are always looking for new members, so I suggest you check that out. And I also want to draw your attention to the little flyer for next month's Lunch and Learn. We're trying something a little different next month. Usually we have trouble with turnout because everybody's so busy getting ready for the holidays. So we thought this year we'd help you out get ready for the holidays, and we're going to hold a cookie exchange. And how that will work is, instead of we supplying the cookies, y'all will supply the cookies. Bring in 3 dozen or at least cookies and a container, and you'll be able to take at least that many home with you. And of all different kinds, for your holiday entertaining or just for yourself. And the learning part of the program comes that if y'all bring me your recipes a little bit beforehand that morning, or even just a few minutes before noon, I'll be glad to run off copies, and everybody can go home with a handful of new cookie recipes as well. So look for that in December 8th, the cookie exchange. If you need more information, let me know. I'll be back here. And with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Marty Shutter of the Ozark Beer Company, who is going to tell us all about one of my favorite topics, brewing. After the tea program last year and beer today, all I need is somebody to talk on Kentucky bourbon, and I can retire. So.
Well, we can talk about that too. we have about 40 Kentucky bourbon barrels in the brew house right now. That's one of the things we're doing is playing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and I can boom and sing as well. Thanks for having me, Leslie. My name is Marty. I work with Ozark Beer Company here in Rogers. We're about a couple miles down this way here east. The company was started in 2013 by Andy Coates, his wife Lacey, and their friend Jefferson. So 3 of them opened it. Same spot we're still at, and we were the first brewery in Rogers. That was the first of its kind, and it's tried and true. The model of putting a brewery in a warehouse and opening up the doors isn't weird, because really what we're doing is we're connecting people. So in the place, people come, they drink a good beer. It doesn't really matter that the walls aren't pretty and that it's a lot of stainless steel, because you watch people literally meet one another over a pint of beer. And so the model of coming together and and drinking something from your region, that's tested. That goes back a long time. So we're not reinventing the wheel. Our We're just making some really good beer. So what we are, we're a brew house. We make about 5 styles year round. And then we have our seasonals, of course, that are sort of responsive to things in nature, the time of year, those, seasonal kind of beer. And so we keep about 5 on tap. We've got a pale ale, we have an IPA, we have a cream stout, we have a coffee stout, that's a cream stout with a little bit of coffee, and then we have a Belgian beer. And pretty much everything we brew is brewed with American ingredients. We use grain that's mostly from Montana, Idaho, and then about 90% of our hops are picked in Washington and then shipped to us here dry. And so I'll pass a couple around. So the hops we get are pelletized. These come in the cones right off a vine, and the vine grows very similarly, like a wine, almost like a grape. And then these are dried and compressed, and so it can be more consistent in the brew. Now let's pass them around. You guys can smell on these. And so what we're doing is making beer, right? And it's, like I was saying, it's kind of an ancient, time-tested thing. But what's so different and so unique about what you're seeing in our industry, the craft beer, the movement, and the sort of proliferation of smaller breweries, is it's the consumer. It's this sort of, it's like what you could kind of say is this national drive to purchase local. And what that does, it returns people to their, it connects them more to their purchases. And so what we like to say, I mean, I really kind of love the fact that we have our cans, our canned beer, and yes, this can will hold cream stout, but it really is holding about 20 jobs in this area. And these jobs are truly our neighbors. And these people spend their money in this community. They have a vested interest. They've staked out a place in this community. So we talk a lot about buying local and supporting our local economy. And in this case, it's really as simple as buying beer. Because, I mean, when we're using mostly, probably 90% American-made equipment, when we're paying full health and benefits to anybody, full time, you can take something that is as what could be routine in your life, and actually it's a product that can have change in the community. And so what we find so unique in our industry is the way things are marketed, the way things are shared, and I have just a couple kind of bullet points I wanted to talk about that. So Northwest Arkansas itself has seen some real fun brewery proliferation. We're all going to say that together now. Brewery proliferation. So really, no, we went from something like 1 to maybe 2 breweries just a few years ago to 10. And so what changed, right? We've always had the water. We've always had an educated citizenry here. We've always had people who are dedicated to their sort of own backyard. Really, what they say changed is a couple of bankers lent the money, and then they saw that it worked. And it may be as simple as that, but I think what we're doing is we're really changing attitudes and behaviors. So a lot of times people will say, "Who's your biggest competitor? Is it Brewery X or is it Brewery Y?" Right? And what we like to say is that our biggest competitor is really old attitudes and some of those larger brands and types of things. So the approach to sort of mindlessly picking up a 6-pack versus choosing what you're buying, investing some of your own information into it and finding out what it is, being connected to that is changing habits. So people are approaching beer and spirits in a totally different way. And when you have people who approach something that's time-tested but in a different way, you bring more people to it. And so when you have more people coming to something like a craft beer in this case, well, it's better for everybody. It's better for the consumer. They have more different options. I mean, diversity in our industry is a true strength. The more differences we have, the more differences in other breweries, the more options a consumer has. The more consumers come to the industry, and we all benefit by having a bigger and better and more informed customer base. And so it gives us more people to make beer for, and there's more beer for the people to drink. And so what we see is competition in this industry isn't the sort of binary, who's doing something similar to you, what is right down the road, like you might see in a lot of industries. For us, it really is old attitudes, old habits, and approaches to our product. And so when we look at it like that, we see sort of a very large curve of things that we can change. We see a much larger piece of the market that we can approach. And so a lot of this, like I was saying earlier, really is returning to a tradition of having a local flavor and of having a business be a part of the community. And so for us, we had a decision about 2 years ago when we opened, was advertising. And this was something that was really fun for us. And I believe you'll see this a lot more in businesses that are built more off passion, and not so much. If I'm selling shower curtain rings, nothing against them, I need them in my life, but I'm not invested in that much. And it's, the sort of product, the mindless product push is something we don't really have to mess with, because this truly is a product and creation of our passion. And so in this sort of passion-based economy, you can turn the money that would be spent in other ways into like laser-like focus for good. So when we looked at our advertising budget, we saw our demand for beer in this area, and not just our own beer, but many other breweries, spike. Well, we couldn't justify spending advertising dollars because we had a demand that we couldn't keep up with. So advertising would stretch that demand even further. It would put even more strain on our own resources and abilities. So we were in a really nice position at that time. We took that money, that budget, and we turned it into charitable giving. And it was part strategic, but it was also, it was like an ability to fulfill something that we all had wanted to do in other sectors of our lives. And then all of a sudden we had a chance to do it with our business. And it not only made economic sense, but it made real community impact sense. So instead of maybe buying a $300 ad in the phone book, and they will come ask you to buy an ad in the phone book, like once a month. That's free. And I'm going to buy an ad in the phone book, by the way. And it's going to say, if you're still reading the phone book, you must love an old English ale. But no, that's my beer joke. No. And so instead of taking that $200 or $300 and putting it into an ad that might get crumpled up and thrown away, we can invest that in, we can look and say, we really love what these people are doing. These are friends of ours. Let's invest that time, resource, and our space in helping them. Very basically, our friends will meet their friends. They have a place to put on their event, to raise money, to raise awareness for themselves. And all we've done is taken the money that we would have been thrown away, and we turned it over to people we like, and we immediately empower them. And then business-wise, we meet people. So it's really interesting, like, to have a business where you can turn money that is so often not lost, but it's hard to quantify the impact of advertising dollars, especially spread out over things like newspaper, radio, TV. But when you take that same amount of money and you host a fundraiser for, we did a fundraiser for First Friends Preschool here, raised something like $18,000 over 2 days. And the next morning, the president of the school, she tells me, we paid for 6 kids' educations for 2 years. Like, that's an actual true impact. And then economically, we met 200 people who had never heard of our brewery that time. So we can do that over and over weekly. We had a benefit Sunday night for sheepdog impact assistance, which helps like raise money for first responders and their families and all around the country, but in this area. And that was another thing where they approached us and it made nothing but sense. So it's a really unique industry. It's an exciting time to be a part of it. And it's really exciting that we have such a successful brewery proliferation in our area. We've got the water, we have the people, we have the economy, we have the infrastructure, we have all of that. And those things now are starting to come together as a region. So where breweries were kind of disconnected, flavors are a little bit disconnected. We now have something called the Ale Trail, which is a passport that's put on here. It's more connecting of the things. We're seeing people growing hops here and trying to find the hop that just excels in this area. Like what hop doesn't live here but really grows here. So we can take this multi-million-dollar tourism industry and push it even further as a region and not just disconnected, isolated breweries. And so that's where we're at. I wanted to just kind of talk about that a little, and then I really wanted to open it up more for questions because I'm really passionate about what we're doing, and I really believe that we've kind of stumbled into this model of staying local and true to yourselves, but having a very nice sustainable impact. Now, it may be different if we were trying to push beer into other markets further away than our own backyard, further than we could sustain. That would take marketing. That would take finessing of a message. But for a company that's truly rooted in its community, it's very easy for us to speak to the community and to brew beer for it. I want to just kind of go from there. Are there any questions about what we're doing right now?
I have a question. Are you located on the corner of 8th and Newell?
Yes, ish. So just one block east. So 8th, 71, we're over on 1st Street.
You're over on 1st?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things that I want to pass around here that's really exciting for us is cans. So we can beer. These are empty cans. And this was another choice at the beginning. When you can choose the infrastructure, right? Are we going to bottle or are we going to can? Well, this was very much an Arkansas Ozark decision here. You can't take glass into lakes, rivers, national parks, pools, many places, but you can take a can. A glass lets light in. Light is an enemy of fresh beer. Light will kill the fresh beer. Stackability. A can is simultaneously a rectangle and a circle. And so when filled, think about it, you can stand on a can. Like empty, you would crush that. So portability, shippability, and infinite recyclability were the metrics we employ. And so cans are infinitely superior. And something that makes that possible actually is these days cans they're sealed inside with a microbead silicone. So the beer never actually touches the can. We have a machine that fills them perfectly, so there's almost no oxygen in there, so oxidization doesn't happen. Obviously, light isn't getting in. So this was an investment in 2 American-made machines out of Colorado, and then we buy the cans from Texas. And it was a big hurdle to overcome, but the thing flies, and it's smooth, and it doesn't waste beer, and it sounds really cool, and it's really, you know, it's a really fun thing to have cans coming out of our area, beer coming out of our area, and then what I call the olive branch beer. It goes across the country. People say, I want to take some Northwest Arkansas beer. I'm going up to Portland. I want to show them what we got. Or I'm going over to Maine. I got to bring some Northwest Arkansas beer. So the olive branch, the ambassador beers are in your hands. Yeah. Any more questions right now? Does anybody? Yeah, Leslie.
You mentioned that we have the water here. Is there something special about Arkansas water?
Well, it's also different. Like for us, I think a lot of people filter, and that makes sense because it's a consistency thing. We have kind of a in-between approach to that, where we kind of honor the quality of the water that we have right here as a part of the beer. So filtering it, trying to change it, trying to manipulate it as if we were going to go somewhere else and try to also neutralize those characteristics that didn't feel right. So we really try to hem towards the water we get. Now go down to Hot Springs, where you have 14,000-year-old natural spring water that comes shooting up out of the ground at 142 degrees with more elements in it than any other source, except for one tiny fountain in Japan or something. There's a brewery down there, and their water, their mineral content is off the charts, and they had a real tough time at the beginning trying to mitigate some of that so they could plan consistency. And they ended up with the same decision. They just embraced the insanity of that water, and that's a unique character in their beer. And they also can say they're the only ones in the whole country using water from a national park. So it's not that there is one monolithic example of perfection in the water here, but I think you see it across our industry. People really embracing what they have. There's a brewery in Illinois that brews beer purely from sap. They use tree sap and things like foraged materials for some of their flavoring agents. So you can be as adventurous as you like. Yeah. Any questions right now?
Yeah, are you saying that you just use tap water like I have at home?
Pretty much, yeah. So we use our water comes from Beaver Lake, but we have a filtration. We have 2-step filtration basically. We have one where we can't get the fluoride out, but we can get close to attacking some of the chlorine, and we can soften it just a touch if we need. But yeah, it's basically it's Beaver Lake. Yeah. Yeah.
What about expiration dates, like on the cans? When do you know if beer has expired, or is that?
That's a great question. So you'll hear a lot of people say, you can't even really get ill from a bad beer. Beer will lose its flavor before it becomes dangerous. It'll become, you know what I mean? The elements, the hops will die. Some of the malt may settle. The yeast may be inactive. Shouldn't be in the bottle anyway. So, expiration dates on beer, it's a brewer communicating that is when they prefer you to drink it by. It's saying that it's not going to expire in the sense that it will go sour like a milk, but it won't be representative of what they wanted to send out the door. And a lot of the breweries around here, we have this really wonderful problem of having a lot of demand, and so the beer is sold way before that would become relevant. So most of us don't even put that on the can because it's in the store a week. And then, but when that calculus changes, then we buy a printer that prints the best on date, and that says it's basically to say, hey, you should probably drink this before it turns to cardboard. There's certain flaws, and one of the flaws is oxidation. Kill it. What's up?
Are you open for tours?
Kinda, yeah. So we have one of the cool things about our industry is you very often see this very stark mix between a production and manufacturing facility with all the safety requirements and acid wash on the floor, and then a public space kind of sometimes right up in there. So we have a public space where we turn into a tap room on the weekends. During the week you can come get pints. We don't schedule tours much because it's really hard with our schedule. It's really rocking right now. But we personalized request. Anybody that emails me, we've never turned anybody down. We just have never opened it up as a scheduling thing just yet.
Well, the reason I say that is I took my University of Illinois alumni group to Saddleback. We went over to Sassafras.
Nice.
Then we went to Apple Blossom. But see, at Saddleback, you know, he goes out, he takes you out in the field, and he shows you where he grows his hops. And then he took everybody downstairs and showed them, you know, talked about the whole production.
Yeah.
They had a little tasting room. Now, Apple Blossom to me is a little more not as quaint.
It's kind of a pub. It's got
Yeah, it's a pub, and you can see the, you know, where they make the beer, but they don't really give a tour. And then Fossil Cove, and that way, and they actually did a little overview for us there too. So, and I hadn't heard about yours, so.
Yeah. We like I said, we don't offer it on, like, it's not something we
Right,
schedule
but
like
like
a
on
train.
a Saturday, you could do it for
If-
like a small group?
If you got a hold of us ahead of time,
Okay.
we have like some pretty strict production floor requirements. We need closed-toed shoes, safety glasses, and we keep everybody together. It's lots of, because so much of what we do is cleaning. It's almost
Right.
there's more carrying of grain and cleaning of tanks than there is like really brewing a lot. So, but yeah, if you email me, we'll set you up.
I'll get your email.
Absolutely.
I was unclear, are you open during the week just to come in and have a tasting or something?
Absolutely, yeah. Our tasting room is open every day. And one of the really cool things about, another reason you're seeing this brewery proliferation, it's gonna haunt me tonight. One of the things you're seeing is Arkansas actually has a pretty cool legal framework for us as breweries. We're allowed within one license to brew beer, package beer, sell it in our facility, and then offer tastings to the public. We're allowed to offer 4 ounces per Arkansan per day. And so we pour small samples of each of our beer. You can try any one of them. And we encourage that. Like that's something that's really fun too in this industry. It's not a bar. It's not random. People are there because they want to be there. And so they want to try something. They want to hear about the process. So we are actually surrounded by people who want to be where we're at, and it's a very nice thing. You're welcome any day from 1 to 6 o'clock to come in and try anything on the house. And we also offer pints too. You can sit down and have a beer. And if the canning machine's running, it's really kind of fun.
More than 4 ounces.
Yeah, totally. Yes, sir.
You mentioned you were local, so of the 5 main ingredients, how much of those, I mean, water clearly is local.
Yeah.
Do you do, and hops, you said something about hops?
No, we can't, we can't source a hop here just yet. We want to so bad. And there are farmers, like I said, who are really working hard, like with the extension office of the university. We've got some of these like ancient farming techniques coming in here where you see artichokes now in our farmers markets. And so you have this combination of ancient farming techniques, the economic incentive that is clearly visible at the university, and then farmers with both maybe some land, time, and interest. Those are coming together. So no, we can't source a hop yet that would make sense in our production. Oh man, it's so close.
And it's kind of a real high demand right now, right?
It's
Hop
incredibly
supply is really big.
shortages across the board. Like prices, we contract our hops 2 years out to insulate from these, crazy price fluctuations. So no, we don't have a hop, and we don't even have a grain here that we can rely on just yet. Rye, we really want to use Arkansas rye. We use rye in our pale ale, and that's kind of the next step. Rye is a really good grain. It's regenerative. It's great for the soil. It grows here really well. So no, we don't have a hop or a grain just yet.
How about the yeast? Do you guys culture your own yeast at this point? Or
Yeah, we have a couple different yeast cultures that we propagate ourselves, and then the rest we get from a scientist in California called Giga Yeast. He's actually from Tulsa. It's this crazy, I don't know how he's from here and there, but we buy yeast from him, and then we'll continue to culture it, and then we've got some of our own going as well. We have yeast is really a fun thing too, like yeast scientists, and the temperature at which you express a yeast, you change it 1 degree, it means a beer might taste like apples or figs. And so, yeah, the yeast science of it is fascinating. Yesterday I got totally splashed with it. Oh, actually, no, it's on my shoes. But no, we do propagate some of our own yeast. Then there's a brewery down in Little Rock, or a brewer named Moody, and then some of the experiments that people do, it enriches all of us. So His culture yeast from a wild plum at a community garden called Dunbar Community Gardens, and he brewed a saison with it, and it tastes just like a Belgian beer. Like this Arkansas wild yeast has some of the same characteristics of this small, sort of French yeast that we use sometimes. So I see all those things coming. They weren't here waiting for us, but they're now catching up. So whereas our industry popped up, now you see entire businesses where they shuttle people to different breweries. You have entire businesses set up to ship barrels and to procure barrels, where those were what's considered waste. So now you also have people who are racing to figure out hops and grain and yeast. So those things weren't there. The demand and the culture is built into us, but the infrastructure is like, oh wait, there's money, I'm coming, you know. So yeah, it's happening. Yeah, totally. Any other questions? I don't know. Is it 9 o'clock now? I feel like we may have been talking for a while.
With the brewery proliferation going on.
You did it! Oh!
With that going on
Here's your prize!
with that going on nationally, it obviously scared the big boys because they're losing 7 to 8% of their production to craft beers.
A year.
But it's interesting, if you take the Boulevard Brewery tour, they make in a year what Anheuser-Busch makes in a week. And that's pretty staggering when you look at that. And Boulevard started like Ozark Beer Company, just a couple of guys saying, hey, let's try some beer. Ken Grossman did the same with Sierra Nevada and Chico. The next thing you know, you're a really big company. Do you guys have those plans, or are you just going to try to stay right here locally?
We don't know. We don't have like the national aspiration kind of plan. Not at all. Like that. I know, like, okay, so Andy, head brewer and owner, his kind of thing was he wanted to brew 1,500 barrels a year and sell it all out the garage door. And so, like, the definition of small brewer, I think he still hems to, but the technical part of that, no. We're producing now closer to 3,000 barrels a year. But that's all in Benton and Washington County, a little bit in Fort Smith. So, no, we don't have the national aspirations. We don't have, like, the sort of like just total ubiquity, none of that. But then we do have the question that we wrestle with quite a bit is, are we an Arkansas brewery? Are we an Ozark brewery? And so as we define ourselves, that tells us which way we should expand. Do we go more to the Ozarks? Do we go more into Arkansas? How do we define that? And that so far has been determined by demand and our ability to meet it. I only see demand increasing, not just for us, but everybody. I don't know how far we're willing to go. Like, Arkansas, sure. Outside of it, probably not.
When you start getting that big, you're going to start having quality issues. I know Core got real big real fast, and then they had some issues with some of their consistency.
I liken it to a car. So I've mostly driven hoopties my life, and if you floor a car that's not ready to be floored, you're going to start losing parts right away. And pretty soon, it's not a car, it's not viable, and nobody wants to ride it. And I'm very fortunate to work with some very sharp people who have seen those sorts of things before at larger breweries and have never floored this car. As much as people want them to, as much as liquor stores want more of our product, as much as outside markets call us, I've never felt the pressure or seen anybody that I work with push the gas further than we can handle. And so maybe that metaphor has gone too far. No, I mean, the way we structure our growth is to mitigate that. Quality control issues that's huge. Like, if we were making the shower curtain rings again, and we sent those out, that's kind of done when it's out of our facility. But we're flavored beers, so everybody in this room has an association with a bad flavor they've tasted in their life, and they're not going to forget that. So it is paramount to us that that beer is delivered in the glass where it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to be. So we invest in our own drivers. We don't contract with distributors. We maintain our own cleanliness in our lines, the pressure on our system. We can tell you the internal diameter of any hose on any one of our 140 restaurant and bar accounts like that, because we're super serious about how that product is delivered. Because if we just made it and let it go, and we weren't concerned with the curation of that product, then the interaction would be terrible. If someone has a bad beer, they're going to blame us and they're going to blame the establishment. Maybe, equal parts, maybe not. And that's not fair to them, and it wouldn't be fair to us. if we didn't, maintain that line. So a huge part of our growth is maintaining that consistency and the quality control. That's because that's all we have, really. So there'll be different challenges for sure. Like if we grow and we're sending beer farther, then that changes how we label the beer. That changes may change how we brew it. If we look at it and it's going further, and right now we don't let anybody keep it hot. It's cold in every store. There's no, that's part of our agreement with everybody, and that'll never change. But how we enforce those agreements, that'll change. I mean, yeah, it'll be our challenge, but it's a challenge. It's the only way we can do it is by meeting that.
And then the other question I had, and maybe I should call somebody else, but there's a really big real estate for sale sign in front of Ozark.
Yeah.
Is that the lot next door?
No, that's us. That's us. Our building, we never owned it. We've rented it. We had a clause in the beginning that allowed us to operate without a for sale sign. It's that sort of optics of not wanting to start a business with a for sale sign. Wasn't good. So they were cool with that. But we, our plan was in 5 years to have that for sale sign out. But we're making the beer we would have in 5 years, we have the employees we would have in 5 years, and we have the equipment that we wouldn't have had in 5 years. So we're 5 years ahead of ourselves, physically, not just on paper. And so we have exercised our right to get out of our lease by looking for a new space, and so the for sale sign comes back up. So yeah, we're totally, the building's for sale, business isn't, and we'll stay in Rogers on that side of town. Where? I wish I knew so I could start booking music for January. It's like, so yeah.
So do you have music sometimes? I mean,
Yeah, every Sunday, pretty much every Sunday we'll have a local act. It's a community center. On Sundays out there, Amanda can attest, this is a friend of the brewery, I'm so glad to see her. Sundays, it's like a big hug. I mean, we have great music. You have people who are like bringing peanuts for one another. People cook their own food. We have a barbecue truck. Kids, every time I come in on Monday, the sidewalk is just littered with drawings and imagination. It's really, really a great experience. From 2 to 6. 2 to 6. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, changing the subject a little bit,
Sure.
I'd like to go back to your canned beer.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I mean, canned beer, we're kind of think Keystone and Budweiser.
Sure.
But for what you're saying, there's a whole new process of doing this. So that's encouraging because I mean, canned beer never really appealed to that.
Sure. 10 years ago it wouldn't make sense. The machines to fill those cans didn't exist, and the technology inside that can wasn't there. So you had beer touching aluminum. That's huge. I mean, a beer, if you add heat, light, and time to that, and then it's shipping on a bouncy truck, that's going to impart that flavor, and everybody knows that.
Well, not everybody. Okay, but not everybody knows there's something new out there.
Right.
Actually, that is.
So it's certainly a challenge that we've taken on. Yeah. But we didn't start that. Craft beer going into cans is 20 years old. The understanding of it is still happening every day, and just like I was saying earlier, every metric we employ, breakability, recyclability, shippability, all of that, there's purity to glass. And now that the beer never touches the can, it's a no-brainer for us.
Okay, let me ask you just 2 other questions
Sure.
about that. Is that pretty much universal now throughout the beer industry that this can is different?
I wouldn't say it's universal. It is. It's the trend. It's the trend. You have a lot of breweries, like you mentioned, Grossman, like the Sierra Nevadas, Sam Adams. They're canning too, but their businesses were built on bottles because they were born in a time where that made more economic sense to invest in that. Every brewery that's opening now is looking equally at bottling and canning, and very often choosing canning.
Which one's more economical? Not only for the can cost itself, but equipment.
The equipment cost can be the same depending on where you source it. So you could buy a used bottling line from a Pepsi plant at about the same price as you could buy a brand new American-made canning machine. So the sourcing questions and the sourcing questions can make it a similar cost. But what you're really asking is what is better? Cans. Aluminum prices, we have to watch that. When Ford announces they're going to make an all aluminum truck, we have to make sure that our can prices aren't going to skyrocket. You see so much canning now that the only 2 companies in the country that are making them, Crown and Ball, both down in Texas, are dropping clients in favor of much larger clients. So they dropped 200 breweries a few weeks ago, crowned it, and we were one of them. But we had really sharp people who were able to shift us over to Ball and save our artwork fees. I mean, it was...
So this is your future here then, sort of?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the can.
And then another thing with the can that's really great is you get to be artistic with it because you're fighting for shelf space, you're fighting for attention in people's eyes. So we partner with Black Box Labs in Fayetteville, a branding company, and I think they knock it out of the park with the artwork they do. Yeah, but it's more economical to do cans, sir, for sure. We come down, I think they come out to be, cents. They're cents, maybe a few cents. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you brew a lager as well?
No lagering yet. So in our calculation is with the amount of tank space we have to produce the beer that we need to get in the market, we've got to turn it over within a couple weeks. Lagering, means to store, and we just don't have the space to store a lager. Lager needs to sit in a tank for sometimes 90 days.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to get beers out every 2 weeks. We're trying to turn over a pale ale every 2 or 3 weeks. We would like to do a lager, a Pilsner as well, something that sits in a tank for a long time. That will happen. But it's also, it'll shoot you in the foot. There's a real good example down in Little Rock. One of our good friend breweries, Lost 40, got real popular. And they're making some really good beer. And 2 of the beers they made that got them real popular it was a Pilsner and a lager. And they didn't have enough tank space. So all of a sudden their other beers started dropping off. People couldn't get their IPA or their stout and stuff because the tanks were just holding these 2 beers that had to age. And they're doing fine. They've brought in more tanks and they're catching up, but it was one of those, oh no, that got popular and I can't handle it. So no, we can't do that just yet. Maybe on a tiny scale. We've got a lot of barrel stuff going. We've got some weird stuff in barrels. Yeah, what else?
Speaking of what becoming suddenly popular, I've been hearing what's the hot new trend is artisanal ciders.
Yeah.
Are you or anybody else in this region, are they working on that?
We're not, and until very recently the law was different. Our license didn't allow us to make a cider. Juice was a food product, and there was a delineation there that we were able to do. That's changed. We're not making it. There's one in Springdale who is, the Black Apple Crossing. They're doing about 4 different ciders. Go check them out. They make nice stuff. Yeah. And a lot of breweries. There's a brewery in Little Rock that makes a pear cider with some local pears. It's real nice. Stone's Throws, that brewery down there. Yeah. What were you about to say?
What are some of the cool hopping techniques that are out there that are coming around?
That's real fun. So hopping techniques he's asking is flavoring a beer. So if you imagine the sort of finished beer that's already fermented as a tea or as its own base liquid, hopping is how you additionally add flavor. And what we love to do, so we secure those hop rights that we buy for our standards that you've smelled here, the pellets, and those we generally dry hop with. And what that means is we put them in after the fermentation. So it's like adding tea leaves again. We put them in and let it kind of steep in a sense. So dry hopping is it's an American fad. We're doing it with everything. We're dry hopping everything, and that's basically just adding hops at the end.
You're adding pellets?
Yes, sir. And then one of the things we really love to do, once a year we get to do a fresh hopped IPA. So this year we did 2. We contract, it's just nodding. It's the mom. So you contract with the farm, and they tell you 2 years out, you say, I want to buy 100 pounds of this hop. You take that to the cooperative. The cooperative then turns around to their farmers and says, they communicate the interest. It's the co-op. So the farmers then turn back and say, here's what we can meet. So we know 2 years out we're going to get 100 pounds of Citra. It's a hop called Citra. We don't technically know what we're going to do with it. And so they call us on a Wednesday and they say, harvest is Friday or harvest is Monday, and we'll overnight them Monday and they'll be at the brewery on Tuesday. So you've got to be able to have a free brew kettle. You got to have a free fermenter, and then those hops come in on a box straight from the farm. They've been overnighted to you. Then we put those right into the beer. So one way we've done that is we brewed the ale before the hops arrive, and we let it ferment. We let all the sugars get eaten out by the yeast. We crash it, which means we make it cold, kill the yeast drops to the bottom, and then when those hops come in, they go right into the tank. Another way we do it with a different beer, we did one with a Centennial. So the fresh hops came in overnight. We put them in every stage of the beer. So in the boil, and then we put them in the fermentation, and then after fermentation. So we just hopped it all the time. Sierra Nevada's got the hop torpedo. Have you heard of this? This is where someone has invented a stainless steel cage. Then they fill it, they just jam it with hops, and they put it in these giant fermenters. And over the natural sort of like fermentation process, this thing just bobbles in there. Continuously hops it. There's a new invention where people are just now extracting the essence of a hop plant in the field. So they've got, it's a machine that goes between the hop rows. They invented it for mint, and it works great with hops. So they will pick the hops right off the plant, and it's like, if you're familiar with like a French sous vide, where it very basically bathes the plant with the heat instead of expressing it with steam or like a boil. It just sort of lightly tusses out the oil. So there's that, and so you see breweries using hop oils. You see people using things that aren't even hops at all, but trigger some of the same responses. Spruce tips, cedar, juniper berries. You've got a lot of different ways to approach the flavor. Even actual lemon peel, dried orange peel. It can get weird, and then you stumble on something, and all of a sudden the whole world's drinking a grapefruit IPA, and it's California meets Old England in a modern American industry, and everyone's the better for it. So. I love that. Maybe I just, yeah. Yes.
Are you, is your beer now being carried at Crystal Bridges?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I like to say it's their most recent acquisition.
Oh, maybe next year you can do when we do the WOW, the Wednesday over water in October, because they have done it before with some of the other breweries.
They had us last year with our bourbon barrel cream stout.
Oh, okay, so they did. Okay, okay, good.
I didn't go to that one. I was somewhere else, but I should have been there. The beer shoot, or what we were talking about. So one of the big trends now is so much of what we're doing that is new is really just returning to old things. And in this case, we're aging a lot of beer in barrels, whiskey barrels. And so we make a beer and we put it in a bourbon barrel that we get straight from a distillery. And there's some real magic that can happen. There's some real chaos, and some of it gets dumped out. But this particular beer that we poured there was quite a success.
Good to stop.
Yeah.
It seems that they do more of the stouts and the heavier beers in the casks.
Yeah,
Has
totally.
anybody gone towards more of an ale or a lighter beer and done that?
Yeah, and so one of the reasons that you see like the heavy beers being aged for a long time is there's more sturdy. There's more malt base to them. The hops are much more delicate and would die and degrade, which is okay if you want some chaos. So yes, you'll see a lot of farmhouses in barrels, which are much lighter ales. You'll see, we've got a pale ale open fermenting in a barrel right now. That's weird, and it's gonna be beautiful. It smells like tea and flowers. So you see more of the stouts simply because it's the sturdy character, and the sort of roasty chocolateness of a dark beer really benefits from the oak of a barrel, the char of a barrel, and the bourbon of a barrel. Like, those things dance really well together. So, yeah. What else, guys? Any more?
You know, I mentioned that you can take a growler on Sunday.
Yeah,
and take it home with you.
Yeah, I wanted, so like one of the, I mean, I sometimes forget like how, I'm used to this, I've seen these a lot, but this is the growler, and this is what so many in our industry rely on, and we sell these to people, $5, this is 64 ounces, and this is how people so much get our product. Like, they come in and refill their growler, and we put it right up to the tap. We let them sample whatever it is they'd like that week, and they fill it up and take it home. Sometimes two, sometimes a couple small ones. And so we seal these right at the tap. You can fill these up any day of the week in Arkansas. It's great. So if you, any day of the week, come fill one up, bring it home for dinner. We see that every day.
If you get on Sunday, you can fill up your ground.
Yeah.
So how long does it last?
What's it like? Well, here's the thing. You can,
Any expiration?
no, so we seal them, and the carbonation will stay for quite some time. We always say fresh, 7 to 10 days for flavor, but technically, the bubbles, it'll all stay.
And keep it refrigerated.
Yeah, we really suggest refrigerated. And a lot of breweries, it goes back to that sort of following the product from creation to consumption, which is so crucial in our business. Like, we can't just turn it loose and hope for the experience to be good. We've got to sort of curate that experience. So right now, and answering that question earlier about quality control, we invest in making sure that the beer is cold the whole time. And so every liquor store and restaurant that we're in, it's understood that it is to be kept cold. If not, we'll just buy it back.
So do you bring the growler back?
Yeah.
Have it refilled?
Yeah, refill it. You own it after this. Some lady brought one bunch in the other day, and she wanted to get her money back, and or she wanted to get her deposit. And I was like, wait, I forgot about that. That's how some glass used to work. Yeah, no, you buy these, you own these, and a lot of people make tea in them, fill them up with
So
coins.
what's the deposit on it?
There isn't one. You just buy it.
Oh, you,
Yeah.
$5 a bottle.
Mm-hmm. And then the fills are generally $10 to $16. Right now, most of our are $12. And 64 ounces, stays fresh. And this is, again, like a part of changing the habits and attitudes. Like when you access beer more as something to accompany and enhance your company and a meal, as opposed to a mindless purchase that you're just gonna drink on the couch, then you begin to, you want to know the differences. You want to know what makes it special. And buying it in small quantities from the people who make it, there's not much in our daily consumer lives where we get to do that. I can tell you, of the 5 stores I went to yesterday, probably all 5 people working there didn't want to, right? And so this is, we get to do something we want. And I think when you buy from people who are doing what they want, I think that's an enriched encounter for sure. Yeah. Did you have one? Yeah. Hey.
I know some of your beers you partnered with Peak Alchemy
Yeah.
for the simple syrups. Is there a way to do that and make like a canned beer out of that mixture, or is that not possible?
Yeah, it's possible. We haven't, what she's asking about, so PH Alchemy is a company here in Arkansas or Fayetteville and North Arkansas that makes, they make syrups, simple syrups with, ancient tried and true techniques, and then they have some pretty modern, fun approaches. They make bitters and shrubs, which are like, alcoholic additives. So the syrups that we use, we brewed a beer called a Berliner Weiss. German beer, Austrian beer, traditionally aged in crocks in the dirt for 3 months, served, right? And then, so I always think they did that to hide it from the town drunk or something. But the beer was traditionally served with a syrup at the tap. And because that beer is traditionally mixed at the tap, I don't know how it would age, but there are plenty of examples of that, yes. Of adding a simple syrup to a beer, putting it in a can and packaging it just like that. We haven't done it yet, but what we will do is we'll sell it separately, and you can add the syrup how you like.
So this would be a sweet syrup, like a fruit, or like an herbal syrup?
Both. So the herbal one is called Woodruff, and it's a green plant, native to Germany, little white flowers, and it's got a very black tea, tobacco sort of herbal aroma to it. It's very nice. The other traditional syrup would be raspberry. They add a red, nuclear red looking syrup to the bottom of the glass, and they pour this very thin beer on it, and it foams up real nice. It's 2 or 3% alcohol. It's very low. Just drink it cold, and it's really nice. But yeah, that's it. They're a great company doing really cool stuff, and that's something that we also go back and forth when you're trying to build a business. You want to sell your product, but if some of that product is, or a certain amount of that product is new and hard to access or understand by a lot of people, or they don't, maybe the word Berliner Weiss might not just sell a beer on its own. We've got to make these decisions. How much do we play to that, and how much do we try to educate that, both for our sales, but for the consumer? So we run into that a lot. It's like, do we want to do a Berliner Weiss with a syrup and a tap? Nobody really does that. Does that make economic sense? Well, if it's wrapped in seasonals and other beers, totally. Yeah. If we make a habit of doing things that are out of habit, I think that that's a safe bet. Anybody else?
I don't know, but your bottle kind of looks like the people that sit around on their couch. So
what do you mean?
I don't know. You look at that and you kind of think of the old alcoholic.
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is kind of like, that's a jug. It's definitely a jug. And I don't think this has changed forever, for sure.
Yeah.
And I can certainly attest to having been someone who sat on my couch but no, I poured in a glass, a very nice, bulbous glass. Etched bottom. See, that's the difference. But yeah, if you have any other questions, you feel free to email me, or we're just so excited about like being able to be a part of something that's, like I say so many times, an ancient, tried and true, but also seeing a resurgence. And a resurgence right now in Arkansas. And a lot of people ask the owners why they didn't open in Colorado where they were living. And I think a good answer for that is, while they were there, the wave had hit. Well, if you think of the next wave, it's hitting other places. So they went to the right place as the wave is hitting here. And so you've got a lot of really cool options for trying really great products made by people who love what they're doing, who are a huge part of their community and make it an active part of their business to enrich their community. I think it's so much more than beer now. It is. It's become so much more than beer. So if you guys have, what's up?
Do you have a website?
Yeah, ozarkbeercompany.com. And we have that, the Facebook. I manage our Instagram. We try to approach it all artistically and without overloading your life with useless information. So,
What's your email?
I'm Marty at ozarkbeercompany.com. And feel free to email me any questions. You guys are welcome to obviously come by. We're open every day. And we have, we do quite a bit of good music, a lot of great music. Yeah.
When you get your new location, are you hoping to have more tanks and all? Or?
Yes, yeah. We looked at we have a can order that's coming in, and we look at the space that'll take, and we'll almost lose all of our space. So, yeah, it's tricky. We'll have to get a space that holds more cans and tanks for sure. Yeah, and all of our steel right now, with the exception of 3, come from Mark's Metal Works in Washington. So it's American-made steel, all brand new. And then our brew kettle, where we actually make the beer, comes from San Francisco. It's a brewery called Devil's Canyon Devil's Canyon in San Francisco.
The copper one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been brewing almost every day since 1996.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions? If not, I'm gonna hand some of this. Here's some coasters too. I'll leave this stuff up here, guys, if you'd like any coasters or any grain. But thank you guys very much. Thank you for having us.